This is Hyetal and you're watching Ptak TV. The first one was kind of like a product of stuff I was listening to like at the time, and like, yeah, this one is just kind of where I was at that particular sort of point in time, I guess. You know, it's still kind of informed by like a lot of electronic stuff, and a lot of it is kind of dance music. You know, that I was kind of influenced and listening to when I was writing it. You know, when I did my last album, I kind of purposely tried to write for the format. You know, I really wanted it to make sense as an album, and yeah, this one was kind of like, I guess, just trying to make everything like way more concise. At one point, they kind of existed as like kind of finished skeletons, and they kind of sounded like completely different. And when we first sort of started talking about like doing some stuff together, I sent him over Left and Four Walls, which were kind of more or less totally different tunes. And at that point, I kind of expected him to kind of just put vocals over the top. But he asked for the stems to record, and he sort of sent me back completely restructured like songs, but they sounded really good. So that was kind of the start of it actually being like a full-on collaborative thing. He hadn't actually launched Bronze when I first started talking to him. Or like, it was obviously like in development and ready to go, but they hadn't sort of put anything out, I don't think. I saw some footage of him playing online. I just thought he was really great, so I just sort of sent him an email, and at that point he hadn't really collaborated with anyone after like leaving his band, and he didn't really seem that interested in doing it really, you know. I think his expectations from a kind of like electronic music collaboration like was, and I guess actually like that, well, that was kind of like the sort of path that I thought we might be doing at the time, like him just kind of adding vocals to an existing piece. He wasn't really like very interested in doing that, and when we sat down and had a conversation and I saw where he was at, like I kind of decided that wasn't what I wanted to do either, you know. It really varies, but on some of the stuff it's quite clear for me in the end, you know, like sort of sitting there listening to it for like the 50th time or whatever, it seems quite fleshed out to me, but I just don't want to be that explicit really with like sort of telling people how to interpret it. I like the idea of it being kind of like soundtrack music that people can kind of like make their own sort of narratives with. I just kind of started writing at quicker tempos and sort of just to experiment and see how that would affect my writing really. So yeah, I guess there ended up being like a kind of quarter of the tunes maybe were like sort of really fast and like driving, but there's a real range on there. And I think in general, like there's a broader range of everything in terms of tempo and mood than broadcast, you know. We did our first live set 2 weeks ago, which is like the kind of lineup now with Gwil and Alison, and we've spent a while getting it together, and it's the three of us, and we're triggering a lot of stuff live, and I kind of expected it to be stressful, and it exceeded my expectations. It was pretty full on, but once we were into it, it's enjoyable, but kind of, you know, reminded me of being in a band again. The first one that I'm going to go for, because it's right in front of me, and it's also an amazing record in a kind of extremely sort of stark kind of way, is this Empty Set thing. James, who's half of Empty Set, mixed the album with me. He's got a studio in Bristol, and it's like pretty much all analog kind of studio, and that sort of played a big part into how my record ended up sounding. So yeah, I really like this Empty Set record. It's an interesting one. It's not the sort of thing you want to listen to first thing in the morning. Well, it's certainly going to shape your day if you do, but he's got like a really good like range of like kind of sort of analog compressors and EQs and things like that. And we kind of just replaced stuff that I'd done in Logic, just to kind of give it a bit more character. Like the record was like 2 years in the making, so by the time we'd got to like mixing it, like I'd kind of sort of lost a bit of objectivity with it, I think. And it was nice to have a fresh pair of ears on it, and you know, the stuff he's been doing in Empty Set, I think sonically is really interesting, and it was good to have someone sort of bringing that kind of stuff to the table. This is the next one I'm going for. Pev and Hodge on Punch Drunk, the newest Punch Drunk. yeah, Punch Drunk, I think most people probably know about. It's like pretty legendary now, like Bristol label, and Pev, formerly Peveralist. He's a really important guy in Bristol. So he ended up remixing like an early thing I put out, really early thing called Pixel Rainbow Sequence. Yeah, that was like the first remix that anyone had ever done for me, and he sent it back, and it was crazy, in the best possible way. So yeah, this is Cowton and Bashmore versus Bashmore, Mirror Song, and yeah, they're both good friends of mine, and yeah, we've kind of both got collaborative projects on the go. I've got records due to come out in about a month with Cowton on an alias called Systems of Desire, on a new label called Happy Skull, run by our friends the Kelly Twins. The idea was to do something kind of like influenced by like EBM-ish kind of stuff, I guess. We're working on more stuff, which yeah, hopefully we'll get something else out at some point. And same with me and Matt as well, obviously the Velour stuff, and I think, you know, we've got a whole bunch of half-finished tunes, so I think there should be another release this year maybe.